It's time for more lore of Nikke Goddess of Victory. This is a series designed for both veterans and newcomers, where I blaze through the main story, and Dai-chan has a section at the end for discussing spoilers. This time, we'll be canceling the spoiler section in favor of catching up with the main story. That's because Dai-chan has already spoken about all the topics we otherwise would cover here. After finally detailing Rapi's dramatic backstory, as well as Absolute's glow-up, we'll be taking a look at some more relevant side content. Dai-chan will then take over with chronicling chapters 35 and 36. This part of the story can get really complicated, as we'll be following different active parties at different times. So let me give you a brief overview of the status quo. The commander and counters are back at the Ark, having just completed a successful surface mission wherein Rapi transformed and defeated the heretic behemoth. Anise and Neon are about to split off and do their own thing, hoping to find their own upgrades. At the same time, we've got Cinderella and Grave. Even though they're down to help us fight, they've chosen not to join us at the Ark, instead remaining at Reclamation Site 01. The two of them hope that one day they can reunite with their fellow second-gen Grimm's Nikkes. One of those allies is Siren, or Little Mermaid, who features in the side story Mudfish alongside Leviathan, one of the 4 beast heretics we're fighting against. This story details how Leviathan became a heretic and how she met Siren in the past. It begins with Levi recalling one of her memories. She used to be a mass-produced Nikke fighting for the Ark. On one of her missions, she accidentally tripped and fell into a pool of black liquid. We've come to know this black water as dark matter. Unable to breathe, Levi found herself ingesting the stuff, and it completely transformed her. The water began to ooze from her head uncontrollably. Her squad mates thought she was a monster and ran away. The same occurred for everyone she reached out to, and she eventually gave up looking for help. Some Nikkes would try to kill her, and to scare them off, Leviathan would use a newfound power, the ability to make her eyes glow red like a heretic. Since she could do this readily, she genuinely wondered if she'd become a heretic. Aside from her eyes and the black water though, she still felt like an ordinary Nikke. Even so, she was unable to return to the Ark, and instead wandered the surface, cold and alone. She eventually took shelter in a seaside cave. Leading up to this was Cinderella's attack on the orbital lift. Back then, she and her allies rode the lift up toward a space station, only for their elevator to come under attack. Siren, Hansel, Gretel, and Ave all found themselves plummeting back down to Earth, ending up in different places. Little Mermaid found herself plunging into the ocean below. Within a protective bubble, she rested for years, until finally washing up on the beach just outside of Leviathan's cave. It didn't take long for Leviathan to come across Siren. Noticing the girl was cold, Levi brought her back to the cave. The two of them were both extremely timid, and upon feeling threatened, Leviathan pretended to be a heretic again. Unlike other Nikkes though, Siren didn't run away. Instead, she fought back, issuing a freeze command via her Kotodama. This provoked Leviathan to immediately stop her facade, returning her eyes to normal. Mind you, Siren once cast away Cinderella for being a heretic. Meeting Leviathan like this made her realize she never wanted to abandon someone like that again. Thus, Siren chose to believe in Leviathan, going out to the beach to fish up some dinner. Levi slowly but surely overcame her fear, and grilled fish became her favorite food. With the ice broken, the two of them started living together, until the day that Siren would go out and look for her lost companions. Technically speaking, Leviathan no longer remembered her real name. Her only possession was a dog tag that read LEV20765, so Siren got the idea to nickname her Levi. I guess the rest of her name came later. They had each lost their homes, and took comfort in each other's company. Levi couldn't stand having black water pour from her face, and always did everything to try and scrape it off. Since dark matter happened to be similar to Siren's bubbles, she got the idea to try teaching Levi to control it. Unfortunately, traditional lessons didn't yield results, causing them to argue. However, Siren had an alternative solution. Within one of her own bubbles, Siren brought Levi into a mental space created by her nymph. There, she transferred her knowledge directly to Levi, everything there was to know about the bubbles. This pushed them both to exhaustion, realizing this method should never be pushed to its limit. Even so, they survived, and Levi emerged being able to manipulate her dark matter. With newfound strength, Levi offered to join Siren in searching for her friends. To prove herself in combat, Levi fought and defeated some raptures. Just as they were about to set out, however, the rapture Gluttony emerged from a nearby forest. This fucker used to guard the orbital lift, eating everything in its path to produce tremendous amounts of energy. Siren insisted Levi flee to the ocean while she stayed behind to buy time. Instead, though, Levi begged for them to fight together. They formed a plan wherein Siren lured Gluttony out with a bubble and forced its mouth open, giving Levi the chance to strike its core with dark matter. Things went smoothly on Siren's end, but Levi caved under pressure. Stricken by fear, she naively insisted she could act, only to run out of time. Gluttony devoured Siren's bubble, and her along with it. Desperate to survive, Levi ran far, far away, riding on a trail of dark matter she didn't even know she could produce. It was an impressive feat, but it also proved she was strong enough to win, if only she hadn't hesitated. Feeling like a traitor for letting Siren die, Levi broke down in tears, unable to forgive herself. The side story ends in the present, with Mihara and Uni combing the surface for rare raptures. They come upon traces of Gluttony moving underground, and boldly choose him as their next target. Now's the perfect time to cover another long-awaited event, Wisdom Spring. In it, the commander gets an invitation from Mana via text to visit MMR Labs. Apparently, the team there has created a specialized weapon for him, and need him to test it out. It's strange how only the commander is getting one, but at the same time, he's shown great potential helping counters out with his suspiciously resilient body. Even so, his squad can't help but find this invitation fishy, as there are tons of shady rumors about MMR. Upon arriving at the facility, the commander can't seem to find Mana. Instead, her colleague Ether calls out to him. As usual, she refers to us as Number 7, though at this point we still don't know why. We're just used to her treating us like a lab rat, so we don't really question the nickname. According to Ether, Mana is busy in the lab's deep sector, where remote communication is prohibited. The commander could wait for her, but has no idea how long that would take. Thus, Ether offers to escort him to the deep sector personally. Given Ether's usual antics, we worry this might just be an excuse to experiment on us. Nonetheless, we accept the offer. The Deep Sector, aka the Level E Zone, refers to 2 subterranean complexes that can only be accessed through a specific elevator. I mean, the Ark itself is already underground, but as the name implies, this area goes even deeper. As I mentioned with Ether's introduction, this isn't the commander's first time visiting MMR. Previously, he caught some kind of sickness up on the surface and was taken here for treatment. Ether jokes these facilities are meant to keep patients from escaping, but in all fairness, MMR has many confidential secrets they don't want being leaked. Luckily enough, as someone who's seen both heretics and pilgrims, Ether reasons the commander is more than qualified to venture further. Her word starts to become less reliable when handing him a key card for the elevator. It's an old guest pass she's held on to. Its clearance should have expired, but hasn't yet. It appears Level E isn't even the deepest part of the facility. That would be P, and very few people are allowed in there. Not even Ether's own clearance is enough, not without formally requesting permission first. Anyway, Ether sends the commander off with the guest pass. He explores Level E by himself, but still can't find Mana, let alone any other researchers. The further he walks through the corridor, the more nauseated and dizzy he becomes. He plans to head back, but first spots Mana along the route. She reveals she's been in the deep sector for the past 2 days. Given the restrictions down here, there's no way she could have invited the commander. Thus, under the guise of Mana, someone else has lured in the commander, but who? Since the commander has no reason to be down here, Mana takes him back to the elevator. This time, however, his keycard is being denied access. Apparently, the card expired while he was exploring. Unfortunately, Mana can't let him in either, since her visit to level E is on a timer of sorts. Even if she wanted to, she's stuck here until the morning when she's scheduled to leave. Clearly, Macilis is being very cautious about their secrets. The researchers down here are predominantly Nikkes, which is a double-edged sword. Brain scans are a reliable way to show what a Nikke is really thinking. This, in turn, makes it harder for them to keep secrets. The very thing that keeps Nikkes in line renders them a security liability. Back in the day, humanity tried to preserve as much culture as they could. The most effective way to do this was by turning scientists and artists into Nikkes. Given their longer lifespans, they could better archive and protect lost knowledge. Certain Nikkes, such as Ave, actually volunteered for this chance, reaping the benefits of an immortal body that required neither food nor sleep. Since they're stuck down here, the commander and Mana search around for a lab with emergency comm devices. They go through various dusty rooms, one of which has an altar. This isn't too strange, given MMR's close history with the VTC. Eventually, they reach an empty lab containing nothing but a suspension tank. Just seeing it gives the commander a headache, along with a feeling of déjà vu. Concerned for his health, Mana has him sit down and rest while she looks around on her own. With wandering eyes, the commander notices a tablet on the floor. Its display reads Project AD before shutting off. Suddenly, his condition worsens, hearing a high-pitched ringing, as well as voices talking about how to enhance the human body. Unable to bear the pain, he passes out. The commander later wakes up in a daze, unable to move. He overhears Mana and Ether referring to him as one of their subjects for the project. Sure enough, we're suspended in that tank of liquid. Apparently, this project hasn't been very successful, but Ether is confident about our odds. Mana prays that they won't need to terminate us. Is this a dream? The commander wakes up, this time for real, with Mana looking over him. He tries to tell Mana about the dream he had, but doing so brings more nausea. Even so, he grabs onto Mana, demanding to know if they ever met in the past. She responds evasively, insisting we forget about it and rest. Despite this, things start to come together in his mind. This familiar lab, his abnormal body, Project AD, it all implies he's been experimented on in the past. Mana begs us to stop questioning her, as she's not authorized to answer truthfully. Interrupting our conversation, someone's hand covers Mana's mouth from behind. This is the commander's first encounter with Jian, Siwin's half-sister. Very few people even know she exists, as she prefers to keep a low profile. If Siwin's arrogant and confrontational, Jian is nefarious and manipulative. Jian reminds Mana that if she told the commander any more classified information, she would have been gunned down. There are certain parties that want this to stay a secret. Not Enoch per se, as it's not a legal issue. Instead, there are dark forces, the Ark itself even, that work from the shadows. Cryptically, Jian confesses that the colony sheltering humanity is ironically their greatest enemy. I take this to mean she's referencing the giant rapture core powering the Ark, though the commander would never know about that yet. Apparently, if the commander learns anything further, he'll never be allowed to leave. It's clear Jian likes to tease us, also referring to the commander as number 7 while refusing to clarify what that is. To adjourn their meeting, she slips him a new access card, confessing that she was the one who had Ether lure him down here using Mana's contact info. As someone who can't leave the deep sector, she wanted to meet us in person. She could have at least provided a weapon as a consolation prize. On the elevator back up, the commander passes out again and awakens in a different lab above level E. There, Mana watches over us until we recover from stress and fatigue. Contractually, she's not allowed to tell him anything about that floor, but assures him that no matter what he is, it's his character that matters. Everyone trusts him, human or otherwise. The commander returns to sleep, during which Ether asks Mana to report on his exam. Mana refuses, not wanting to treat us like some cold science project. Ether's surprised how number 7 has wormed his way into Mana's heart. This whole ordeal is bizarre, as though Ether wanted the commander to learn of his past. Technically, simply referring to us as Number 7 risks exposing Project AD. It's so classified that neither the deputy commanders-in-chief nor the big 3 CEOs know it exists. The only people allowed to know are them and the supreme commander in charge of the project. Number 7 was its only success, with 6 prior failures. They are always listening in, so they could have stopped Ether already if she were acting out of line. Thus, she claims to have no idea who left that tablet in the lab below. Even though Mana asks Ether not to pull a stunt like this again, the mad scientist refuses to promise anything. We'll learn more about the commander's unique abilities, but at least now we know a bit about how he got them. That does it for my section.
Hi guys, Dai-chan here. As a reminder, this is not going to be a spoiler segment. Instead, I'm taking over coverage of chapters 35 and 36, returning to the main story. Our primary goal in visiting the Ark was to have Rapi's new body inspected by Ingrid. It appears Red Hood's energy, which used to float by Rapi's core, has now completely fused with that core. Along with Absolute, Ingrid prepared a set of upgrades for Rapi, which are added on now for expanded functionality. She's now up to spec with her rival eunhwa. That said, Ingrid still has no clue how Rapi's transformation works. Her new weapon, which is officially titled 7 Dwarves 0, is also quite baffling. It's capable of firing both standard rounds and grenades. It's got a drill function and jet propulsion system. Since it's clearly a custom-built weapon meant for Red Hood, we refrain from entering it into the Ark's database. The commander worries whether the Ark will accept this new Rapi, so Ingrid drives us around the freshly rebuilt city. There are television ads hyping up the counters and their achievements. Our reputation has never been better. By extension, fewer people should be able to fuck with us. For Marian's sake, though, we still need more influence. Thus, we meet with Andersen, who is reluctant to believe that Cinderella is our ally. His past dictates otherwise, but he's willing to trust our testimony. Either way, he feels her existence must be kept a secret, especially from other deputy commander-in-chiefs like Birmingham. While my opinion of Birmingham has softened somewhat, I get where Andersen's coming from. He's the type to reject an ally for the chance to study them like a lab rat. Putting his feelings aside, he'll do what he thinks is best for humanity. In other news, Absolute brought back a sample of dark matter, which is being researched at a base on the surface. Since we plan to hunt down more of the 4 beasts, the commander asks Ingrid to have Elysian construct more Vophouse bullets. Of course, this means revealing to her the secret of his blood. Luckily, she agrees to manufacture more, especially since Eden hasn't been responding to our calls. Before we left for the Ark, Cinderella revealed some critical information. The raptures, while great in number, are not infinite. Their source in space was cut off decades ago. This coincides with data that suggests the frequency of rapture encounters has been decreasing. If the Ark can verifiably confirm this, its people will have renewed morale. There's some tangible hope for reclaiming the surface. On that note, we choose our next destination, a region of the map covered in black. It's like an ocean of dark matter, and we suspect that's where Leviathan will be. Before heading out, we follow up with Ingrid. Manufacturing Vophouse bullets requires the commander's blood, as well as first-generation rapture cores. Production can get started as soon as those cores are located from the Ark's storage. In the meantime, we all relax at the outpost, which has been thoroughly cleaned. The commander feels bad about Anissa's decision to stay behind and offers to help her solve her problems. Even so, she insists on doing this herself, so as to not stifle our momentum. Neon remaining by her side is at least a compromise. Still, that means Rapi will be the only counters member on the front lines. After a while, it appears creating Vophouse bullets is more complicated than initially anticipated. Elysian is struggling to create even one of them, but Ingrid swears she'll have one finished and sent to us within the next 10 days. She's also kinda pissed off that Neon, her very own spy, has started acting against orders by remaining at the Ark with Anise. At the very least, we can expect a support squad for our next mission. This time round, Matisse will be accompanying us, and they make a dramatic entrance with Laplace and Drake crashing through the windows. Supposedly, the collateral damage they cause costs 3 times their monthly income. They still won't learn, though. According to Maxwell, Siyuin advocated for Matisse to join us. It's weird having her be so nice to us. At the same time, having her best squad on the job will only help Macilis' reputation. It's not a completely selfless endeavor. Back at Reclamation Site 01, we rendezvous with Cinderella and Grave. The two of them find Matisse's usual banter extremely annoying. Laplace is hell-bent on teaching Cinderella the ways of a hero, and Drake wants to indoctrinate Grave to a life of villainy. Maxwell winds up forbidding the two from speaking unless spoken to. Our destination happens to be an abandoned nature preserve, which is now a dead jungle where all the water has been replaced with dark matter. As a reminder, hunting heretics isn't easy. So long as their core is intact, they can be revived. In the previous encounter, Leviathan ran off with Behemoth's core, and is now trying to resurrect her by storing the core in an egg and feeding it rapture parts. Being a weaker heretic, Leviathan is afraid of us catching up to her, but clings to hope that if she too can touch the commander's blood, she might be able to transform. However, we don't actually want to kill her. We've learned from Marian and Cinderella that heretics can be allies. To that end, we'd prefer to talk with Leviathan and learn what she's planning. Eventually, we reach a stretch of black water too deep to cross on foot. Floating above this lake, Cinderella spots a bubble shaped just like her. Specifically, it looks like the kind the Little Mermaid used to make. It proves its innocence by creating a bridge for us. Hell yeah! Unfortunately, despite having created the second-gen Grims, Grave no longer remembers Siren. That said, this bubble is proof that she's still alive. As much as Cinderella wants to investigate it, she first wants to repay the commander, or as Grave tells her to follow her heart. We all get distracted when, further into the jungle, we come upon some ugly, alien-esque eggs. One breaks open, revealing a creature that looks like a human-shaped rapture. As soon as it's born, it explodes, but not before calling out nearby raptures. This process repeats until all the eggs hatch. Upon closer inspection, they appear to be a fusion of Nikke and Rapture, similar to a heretic. Cinderella suspects these eggs are an attempt to birth heretics en masse. Thankfully, they haven't succeeded. When we get close enough to Leviathan, she sends out more waves of dark matter, which Laplace and Drake blast apart. Rapi intersects Levi while she tries to sneak attack the commander. Dragged out of hiding, she has no choice but to speak with us. Leviathan begs to be killed, as it's better than being toyed with. The commander, however, proposes to help her revive Behemoth in exchange for information and a truce. She nervously accepts. It's not a bad deal for us, either. Behemoth has become precious to Leviathan, and even if the two become our opponents again, we're strong enough to take them down. As for all those eggs we saw before, they're remnants from an experiment Leviathan was conducting. They're created by enveloping rapture cores with dark matter. For the most part, what they hatch is completely random, though she can try to curb the results depending on the ingredients she feeds them. That's why she wanted Cinderella, to use her as a powerful food for these eggs. Ideally, Leviathan could grow heretics this way, but she's since written off the entire process as a failure. Either way, it appears heretics aren't always the result of corrupted Nikkes. None of the 4 beasts have any idea how the others came about. They just know they feel a strong pull toward each other, like a family. Leviathan takes us to Behemoth's egg, which has no signs of life and is refusing to eat any of the rapture parts brought to it. Drake then gives the egg an external zap, which actually wakes it up. Villain CPR! Fundamentally, Behemoth can revive in a similar way to Indivilia, though the latter mainly consumed Nikke parts. Specifically, indivilia consumed 378 grams, which just so happens to be how heavy Nymph is. Fortunately, thanks to Drake, Behemoth seems to be doing just fine eating the rapture parts we hunt and deliver to her. To an extent, this truce of ours really seems to be working out. We learn how the four beasts have no issue with humanity. They merely want to slay the offspring and use their custom-built ark to facilitate the growth of their own advanced species. As we gather more rapture parts, we encounter another of Siren's bubbles. It, too, forms a bridge for us, which leads to a whole family of bubbles shaped like Cinderella's comrades. Seeing them all in one place, Cinderella takes this chance to reintroduce Grave to her own creations. Leviathan admits she learned how to manipulate dark matter by training under Siren. Technically, she says she stole Siren's technique through brainwashing, but it becomes clear how she's just trying to act tough. Another bubble happens to take the form of Leviathan, indicating the two of them used to be friends. It even reshapes itself to form the words, "I'm fine." The bubbles then take the shape of an arrow and begin crossing the Black Sea. We'll lose sight of it if we don't follow, but Cinderella is the only Nikke who can fly, and she can only carry one of us at a time. This prompts Grave to ask the commander permission to go out on their own, promising to come back after they've found Siren. Generously, we want to help, but are told to focus on our own mission. Thus, we say goodbye to Cinderella and Grave as they search for their long-lost friend. By spending time together, we learn that Leviathan is a damaged sweetheart. She just lashes out because she's afraid of betrayal. Unfortunately, we accidentally provoke this exact trigger. While feeding Behemoth's egg rapture parts, its tentacles grab onto Laplace's gun, forcing Matisse to play tug-of-war with it. This is rather humorous, until crystals spout from the egg and pierce Laplace's arms. This also causes her gun to go off on its own, blasting the egg open prematurely. Leviathan declares this an act of betrayal, destroying all the goodwill we established. She takes Behemoth's core and flees elsewhere. As for Laplace, she has no choice but to cut off power to her arms. Giving her proper treatment would mean going back to the Ark, but Laplace insists on continuing the mission, mainly for Siuin's sake. As a compromise, we return to Reclamation Site 01. In the worst-case scenario, Laplace can always refrain from combat and channel all her energy into Drake instead. Well, that's nifty. Each chapter, for a good while, is split between the commander's adventures and Anis's exploits at the Ark. I've taken the liberty of joining some of these segments into one to reduce the number of times we switch back and forth. Hoping to improve her strength, Anis goes to see Mustang along with Neon. Here, Anis reveals she used to be a pop star in the three-girl group Twinkle Tri-Star, or TT Star. She's come to formally resign from that job to dedicate herself full-time to combat. Mustang refuses to accept this, that is, unless Anis can hold one last farewell concert. This might seem like a waste of time, but unless Anis can confront her past, she'll remain weakened by insecurities. This means Anis needs to reconnect with her former colleagues. She consults Ingrid for help tracking them down, but apparently Mustang has forbidden them from taking such an easy shortcut. To add insult to injury, none of Anis's old contact information is valid anymore. Neon vows to be Anis's manager, but doesn't seem to be too much help at first. At least she's trying, though. Throwing them a bone, Ingrid agrees to send a pair of Elysian Nikkes to assist. These Nikkes are Irie and Avistar from the Overseer Squad. Currently, neither of them are playable characters yet. Instead of combat, they're an inspection unit who love discovering people's dirty secrets, and have agreed to do a favor for Ingrid. Initially, they plan to infiltrate the entertainment world by exposing Mustang's agency, but quickly learn that he runs everything above board. That's when Neon gets the idea for Anis to place a message out on broadcast television, hoping her former group members will reach out to her instead. That's great and all, except there's no way to purchase airtime on such short notice. It's a good thing Dorothy happens to have her own TV channel, but will she let Anis use it? Suddenly all that teasing is starting to seem like a bad idea. Stay tuned for more videos that continue to expand and explore Nikke's incredible story. You can find all of these episodes in my official playlist. If you like what we do here, consider signing up as a paid member, as it's by far the best way to support us. Next time, we'll be revisiting Siren for her dramatic event, Unbreakable Sphere. Until then, celebrate your fandom!
I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters. Video Gamer 75, Dante Pendragon, Time Travel Master, Stephen Elak, Mystic Samurai 1983, Otaku Mom, Freebrick, Jugemu Unko, Lunar Works, Link Pendrago, James Hewitt, Uncanny EXP, Pro Calum, Gatsby 1922, Matal Mataru, Winter's Edge, Thanathiel, Foxbox, Rogue's Hideout Secret Stash, Draco Chaotic, Caitlin P, Sith Lord 906, Vladimirovna, The Taz 96, Kengo X77, Alistair Bernadotte, and Liamon 3. Thank you all so much.